So we're going to start this solo off basically just doing our first lick verbatim. So this was our double stop lick. So what I'm doing here is I'm sliding into the 4th fret of G and then playing the 3rd fret of B. And again, I'm playing this so that if I was to play these isolated, I would still hear both of them ringing. And I'm picking through the G and B string and also getting that high E string to ring out. So if you need a good starting point, I'm essentially starting the position 1 fret lower and sliding into it. But again, we are incorporating and learning a bunch of these techniques on the fly, so we can also just start right here and we don't have to worry as much about the sliding. Right? So I'm basically playing through this 2 times over, and if I want to, I can just play it straight without any of the slides, so I don't have to worry as much. I let that ring out. I'm making sure I'm getting a good sound and I have a nice, my distortion is really ringing out and giving me some sustain in that position. Then I'm gonna move to my alternate picking lick. And this is another reason that this lick is great, is because often in solos, you'll notice a guitarist might start a little bit lower down, a little bit more in a mid-range. But if you want to get to that piercing, point, if you want your solo to really have an arc, you want to eventually make your way to a little bit of a higher pitch, and this is a great avenue to do that. So, for our next lick, I'm essentially now just going to do my alternate picking lick verbatim. So, I'm playing 3, open, 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 5, open, 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 10, open, 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 and then 12, open, 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 and then landing on 12. So I'm using that as, something that builds momentum and again, gets me up to this higher position, and now I'm going to be in this higher position. So I did my double stop lick. Then I did my alternate picking lick, where I will then sustain that 12th fret of the high E string. Now I'm going to go to my double stop bend lick. Except I'm going to play, so the 14th fret of D, the 12th fret of G and B, then the 14th fret of G and B. I'm going to, if you remember, pull this way a little bit, right? So I'm not doing an exact half step bend. I'm just kind of pulling into kind of a quarter step bend territory. I just want a little bit of snarl so it bends it honestly out of tune, so that once I bring it back in, it kind of has this nice feeling of resolve while still getting to that nastiness that we get into when we do a double stop bend. So again, I'm playing it normally, a little bit of a bend to it, playing it normally, and then I'm playing the 12th fret of both G and B. And you'll notice as I do it, I'm now kind of doing the same thing. This is somewhere between a very aggressive vibrato and a bend. So I'm just trying to pull and push both of these strings at the same time. But again, if you want to keep it simple, we don't need to add that vibrato. That's just a nice little extra snarl that again gets at that classic rock sound that's calling back to the blues. So we have our double stop lick. We're going up with our alternate picking lick. And now we have our double stop lick. And then we're going to end by just pedaling our bend into double stop lick. So to do that, again, I'm using my first finger here on the 12th fret of the B string and the 12th fret of the E string. I'm bringing my ring finger down to the 14th fret of the G, and I'm bending that up while keeping my first finger in place. So again, this is the core importance of this lick, because it's really easy to go, oh, I have to bend this note, and then you change positions and your first finger is no longer in position. We always want to make sure, no matter what, our first finger is barring across the 12th fret of the B and the E string. Right, and I'm just going to do all down picks with that. I'm picking the G note, and then the B and the E string together once. And the cool thing about this lick is I'm not going to encourage us to be sloppy or anything like that, but even with your right hand, if you take some liberties or your right hand's not the cleanest, it still sounds really cool and kind of has that blues sound. Right? No matter how fast I get with it. So again, that's not to encourage sloppiness or say that, you know, this is a lick made for sloppy players or anything like that, but when you have a loose feel with it, it isn't always the worst thing. So I do think it's a lick that isn't always the hardest to make sound great. So we went with our double stop lick. We went up with our alternate picking lick. We had our bendy double stop lick, and then finally we just did our bend into double stop lick, and then let that 12th fret of the B string and let that 12th fret of the E string ring out. So now that we've got a good foundation of all of the different licks that we're using and incorporating in the solo, we're going to do it once more with the backing track. But before we do that, I'd just like to thank you for making it all the way to the end of this pack and going through all these lessons and solos with me. All of these licks and solos are really meant to develop your sound and, again, just give you simple little patterns within your scale shapes that can help you find your sound as a soloist and as a melodic player. So, as always, try to practice all of these different techniques that we've been talking about, but don't sweat it too much if you're not playing something exactly or verbatim just like I am. The whole point is that these give you a nice jumping off point so you can practice all of these individual techniques that I've outlined for you and find how it fits into your own sound. So, with all that being said, let's hear it once more with the track.